Hey guys, it's about 4:15 a.m. I'm on day 5 of my vacation, aka staycation, aka quarantine at home. I wanted to check in and kind of chat about what it's been like in the emergency department in the last couple weeks before I started vacation. It's been like really heavy and like physically and emotionally really draining. As you guys are probably hearing from all the news media, there's just been a surge of cases, like really serious COVID-19 cases. Surprisingly, we're seeing a lot less of the other complaints that we used to see a lot, even chest pain, abdominal pain, like nausea, vomiting, back pain, like those things we're just like seeing a lot less of. Instead, we're seeing just like super high acuity, super sick people, a lot of them with like respiratory complaints. In terms of volume, we didn't necessarily see an increase in volume. We saw maybe about the same number of patients, but they were all sicker. On a typical shift, like a 12-hour shift, I might see anywhere from like 12 to 15, 16 people. For the most part, I'm discharging a lot of them, and then I'm admitting some of them, and you know, one or two of them will go to the ICU, maybe no one. Now, when I see patients, at least half the patients that I'm seeing are ICU bound, or they're supposed to be ICU bound because they really need to be intubated, but we don't have enough ventilators or we don't have enough ICU rooms. So we end up keeping them on the non-rebreather mask, and I end up having to like constantly recheck and reevaluate to see how they're doing. If their oxygen saturation starts to drop more, or if they become like tired of breathing so fast, then we would intubate. Just the fact that we're seeing so many sick people has been really tiring, and I'm constantly worried that if I don't check on somebody, something bad's gonna happen to them and it's gonna be my fault. So that like had really weighed heavily on me. I think another really difficult thing is having sort of the end of life care with family members. I don't know if you guys heard, but a lot of the New York City hospitals are not allowing visitors into the emergency department because of crowding issues, but also like for public health reasons. We don't want to infect family members who are not sick. I often end up having to have these like really serious, really tough end of life conversations about whether they would want their family members to get chest compressions or whether they would want their family members to be intubated like over the phone, and the family members can't see their loved ones, and it's just like a really tough thing to have to do. And I suspect that as we see more and more cases and need more and more ventilators, we're gonna really run into the issues that we were seeing in Italy, where they were choosing who to intubate, who not to intubate. I just feel like there's just more and more sick people, and it's just like really sucks and just goes against everything that we've been trained for to not be able to do that everything we can do. That sort of like ethical question is something that I've always kind of struggled with in my ICU rotations. Now that the emergency department is basically like half an ICU or more, honestly, I feel like I'm just running into that more and more. Definitely in the past couple of weeks before vacation started, there were days when I just like cried before going to work because it just like was a lot. And I know there's a lot of media coverage about PPE, and it's true what they say. There is shortage. We are getting emails from basically the hospital administrators almost on like a daily basis about what we should be doing with our PPE, how to preserve and how much we're able to get. To be honest, I work in a very high resource hospitals in New York City. So every time I had gone in, there has been a mask for me, but usually I use the same mask the whole shift, so just one mask per shift. And there hasn't been any cases where I walked in and there was no mask at all. But I know that's not true for some of the other hospitals in New York City. So some of the hospitals in outer boroughs who really have been hit really hard with the COVID-19 cases, I know that they're actually running out, don't have gowns, don't have masks, and they're just getting creative and using what they have. I think sometimes like the hardest part about this is like feeling like as a resident, like having no power and having not enough of a say because you, number one, you really need this job because you have all this like med school loans, so you really have no other option. Like number two, we're kind of in the lower cost effective labor when it comes to doctors. Residents are cheap, relatively speaking. So, when we're told to not do something, or you can't talk to the media, or you can't do this, you can't do that, like it just seems, it's like easy to feel very powerless about everything. And you obviously want to put your safety first, and not only your own safety but the people that you see in your life as well. So I know that's like a stressful part for a lot of the providers out there, not just doctors, but PAs, nurses, techs, everyone. I have been really anxious about, surprisingly, not myself getting sick, but like spreading it to other people. So I figured I'm in contact with COVID positive patients like every day, patient after patient, almost everyone is positive at this point. So I figured, if I was going to get it, honestly, I kind of feel like I probably did get it and was one of the percentage of people who are asymptomatic after getting it. But then I worry about like, well, am I spreading it to other patients? Am I spreading it to other people in my life, my fiance? And obviously I've totally limited seeing other people in my life outside of work, and seeing my fiance. But that's always a concern because I don't know, like you guys probably have heard, but this isn't a disease that's just affecting old people. Like I've seen young people get really sick, and they need a lot of oxygen, they need a lot of respiratory support, they get intubated, and their outcomes aren't always good. You always have to question, like, am I just one of the asymptomatic people, or did I just not get it yet? And when I get it, am I going to be intubated? So that's like a big that's a big difference. So every time after work, I have a little decon station by my door where I have a Clorox wipes, and then I wipe everything down. I undress, put my clothes into like a plastic bag, and then I like run straight to the shower. And I know a lot of doctors have been doing that. The saddest part is I know a lot of doctors who are parents or have partners or live with family that have like medical problems had to isolate themselves, so they're not seeing their family members. I personally know a couple of residents who have kids who just have not seen their kids in 2-3 weeks, and it's likely to go on for longer. And that's sort of the sacrifice that you make just to minimize the risk that you're going to get them sick. So yeah, it's like physically stressful, but a lot of it's like emotional stress as well. It's nice to hear a lot of like supportive words from you guys, and also from just in the city. If you guys live in the city, you know that every day 7 p.m. there's like a cheer and like clapping for all the healthcare workers and frontline workers. It means a lot to know that people are thinking of us, and I'm super grateful that I got to keep my vacation, which was set over a year ago. And I'm like fully prepared to go in if anybody calls out and they need me, because I know a lot of my co-residents are sick. I'm grateful that I got to take this break because I felt like I really, really needed it. Just like a month in the world of COVID, I was so tired of being surrounded by people dying, people getting intubated, having that conversation with a family. This break is like much needed. And when I'm done with my vacation, I'm going to be going back to ICU. I have a ICU rotation. It's supposed to be neuro ICU, but at this point, everything is like a COVID ICU. So that's what I'm going back to after this vacation. So I'm just going to enjoy just being home and resting, and making the most of it, and then hopefully be like recharged physically and emotionally to be able to go back. When's my sleep gonna be fixed though? Probably never.